All right, everybody, what's going on? Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Shaggy, that one was odd, that game between the Avalanche and the Blackhawks. Avalanche win it 2-0. Give me a word to best summarize what just went down.
I'm somewhere between Hakuna Matata and Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
However you say. I think combined that would be Hakuna Matata Superfragilistica. Yeah, like one long thing, however you want to say that. Yeah. All right, everybody, what's going on? Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, and the Avalanche make it 16 in a row at home with a 2-0 victory over Chicago. It didn't come easy. And this was just like I'm trying to wrap my head around this game. It was just I guess like one of those old school, just back and forth. And when a team made a mistake, if the other team was going to have to capitalize on it, I didn't really feel like there was really much flow to this game. So we'll break it all down. But there were some good spots, obviously. And the Avalanche winning is one of them. But first things first, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. And definitely follow the show on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter. Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions to lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow the show on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button and get notified when a new show goes live. So yeah, Avalanche 2-0. It was a grind. Yeah. And you know, in the end, Pavel Francouz gets the shutout. We'll talk about the goalies in the second segment because some good stuff happening with the Avs. But overall, I don't know. There was no like cohesion in this game. There was no, from both sides. Like I think both sides were playing a strong defensive game. When I get the stats up here. I mean, the Blackhawks had 24 shots on goal, the Avalanche with 29. And it showed. It didn't really seem like pucks were flying all over the place last night.
I realized this about midway through the second period. This game was a New York Islander game from last year. Like Devin Tays brings over his Islander ways. And that's what it was. It was just like we were talking in the last episode, like the defense needs to shore up, get tightened up, and quit allowing the odd man rushes. Well, they completely flipped that on its head. Like there was no rush of any kind on either side. And it was,
I mean, every once in a while, I mean, you might have got like one, but they got shut down. You'd see them like possibly materializing. And then they just didn't happen. I agree. With you.
And it was no goalie was going to let up anything either. So there was no, and of course the one goal to get everything started was the just slowest dribbling puck I've ever seen.
It was almost like the Sam Girard goal the other day. That was just an ugly goal, and that's what you needed. You needed something to get on the board. I was wondering if once they cracked Fleury, if a floodgate would open, because that's happened before with the Avalanche and him, and that didn't happen. He played great. Fleury played great, and there were some shots. I can't remember who took. I think it was Eric Johnson, or maybe it was Jack Johnson, who took the one from the point, and he was kind of just like recovering from coming from the right side, and he didn't even know the puck was coming, but he kind of just flailed it. Like he was, when that stuff's happening, you're like, all right, this is going to be an ugly game. This is going to be, we have to get something, just capitalize on a mistake somewhere. But I will say that second goal that they got from Mikko Rantanen was pretty.
Absolutely.
And the way he did it was the right way, because he needed to hold on to that puck for the not even another second, maybe another like 2 seconds, knowing full well that Fleury was kind of sprawled out. But if he kind of just took it and just instinctively shot it right away, the way that Fleury was saving pucks, it would have probably gone into that blocker that he raised up.
Yeah.
But he waited for him to raise it, and knowing that he's not going to keep it up for that long, he's got to lower it, and then he fired it backhand and roofed it. That was a very, very pretty goal for Mikko Rantanen.
And to have the wherewithal to not hold it too long and lose that angle, because the way he was drifting, the longer he held it, that angle just gets really tight and there's
Yeah.
a small room for error there. So a very veteran move for Mikko
Very,
there.
very. And it's not like the Avalanche didn't have some good moments. Like there was a number, like several possessions that they held the puck in the offensive zone for a long period of time. And there was even one on the fourth line. The fourth line held it in there for a good amount of time, and they were just cycling and they would get a decent look. That's what was bothering me, was they would have good offensive possessions that led to an okay shot.
Yeah.
Nothing that was like all of a sudden you'd have like a cross ice pass that would leave somebody wide open and they would rip a high percentage chance. It just wasn't happening. Nothing was materializing into really good scoring chances.
And you wonder that if they're kind of going back and forth in their head, because we were complaining about their shot totals the other night. You wonder if they feel like there's like a quota they have to hit when it comes to shots.
Yeah.
That they keep trying, like you see them cycle more and they're trying to establish a really good shot. And when it's not there, you wonder if they're just like, okay, we're not going to find a shot. We have to make a shot. And they just fire off these okay chances, trying to make a good rebound because they're not getting their shot lanes. And like you saw that against Minnesota. There's been a couple teams that just get in the way. And I think it's starting to frustrate them a little bit.
Yeah, it can be. I wanted to look at kind of the stat line for, and we'll get to. It's going to take me a minute to look it up, so I'll wait. But where's my stats for the day? So you got McKinnon with the assist, and I don't know about you, but I was yelling at this. And I know the Avalanche had it kind of wrapped up. Why is he passing that to Gabe Landeskog in the end? The net is empty. He's got a fine angle. It's maybe there was a guy on him, but I think he's talented enough to find the right angle, which to shoot that puck into an empty net. But he passed it to a wildly offsides Gabe Landeskog. And I mean, and this is all happening with a minute left, but why get cute there?
Yeah.
Just power it home, 3-0, and then you have nothing to worry about now.
I never in a million years thought I would ask Nathan McKinnon not to be selfish.
Oh, that was killing me. And what I loved was Landeskog, even though they blew the whistle because he was way offsides.
Yeah.
Still threw it into the net, and Chicago didn't like that too much, which I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, but I don't know why at the same time. Like, don't get so upset about that. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that was not. I think that was just a way to get the frustration of the game out. Because Chicago, they tried. They were on the same side, just trying to make shots and trying to get something going. And of course, anything that happens after the whistle, they're going to get mad. And seeing Nathan McKinnon be so just team first to pass away from that empty net to give it to Landeskog, it had to be frustrating. Almost felt like they were getting dunked on.
Yeah. So for expected goals, and I always like looking at expected goals especially when a goalie has a shutout.
Yeah.
So Pavel Francouz, no goals allowed. Expected goals against 2.3. And when the Avs only score 2, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other end, Marc-Andre Fleury gave up 2 goals. His expected was 3.02. So for him, still a good solid game. It was a goalie battle. It was a goalie battle, defensive battle, and then it really showed. We want to talk about the goalie situation with the Avalanche right now. And I know there's probably some people out there shouting, Frankie's got to be number 1. Frankie, like, stop. And just hear me out first because I love me some Frankie. But I
just
want to
collaborate and listen.
And on that, Bet Online would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march into the playoffs and towards the Super Bowl. What a weekend of NFL action we had last weekend. Even though your Titans couldn't pull it out, it was still entertaining to watch.
I'm a hockey guy.
Yeah. First and foremost, BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. It's a new year, a new updated desktop and mobile website. When you sign up today, you'll receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code Locked On to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports. It's where the game starts. It's betonline.ag. So the goalie situation is kind of taking a turn for the Avs. Things have started to look good. I know a lot of people are. It's almost like there's a line in the sand drawn, and there's Kuemper people and there's Frankie people, and I think maybe more people are on the Frankie side because he's been an Av longer.
Yeah.
For me, like, I don't want to have that conversation of who needs to be 1A and 1B, because I have these conversations with Adam on Locked On Lightning all the time. And he is still of mind of, you have one solid goalie and you work him to the bone. And when you have a guy like Andrei Vasilevsky that he does, you can make that statement. When you have two guys that right now, I am at the spot, being an Avalanche fan, where I don't care who's in net. When I saw that Frankie was getting the start against Boston, I was like, okay. I didn't think anything outside of that. I didn't think, oh, well, this is interesting. Why isn't it Kuemper? No, now you have two healthy goalies. You give them a workload that is conducive to where they are in the lineup. Let Kuemper rest. There is no need to just keep throwing a workload on him. He can now have a normal workload. Frankie can now have a normal workload. And I don't care. People might want to read into it. Like, why would you give Frankie the start after a day off? And we were talking about bringing in, would they trade for Fleury? And is this a matchup? Does Fleury have to prove himself against the guy that the Avalanche might bring in?
Yeah.
I don't see it like that, people. I see it as the Avs have two goalies, and this is exactly where they thought they would be with their goalies. And when, if Bednar has a gut feeling who he wants to put out, that's who he's going to put out, and have total confidence he can do what he did, pitch a shutout.
Yeah, and that's the thing that gets me the most about that conversation about bringing in Marc-Andre Fleury is they're usually the ones that are saying, well, we don't have a solid number one, so we're going to bring in Fleury and then compact our number one to 1A, and then you're going to push, and you still, we have Justus Annunen also knocking on the door. He's getting ready. Like, it's about to be a very crowded goalie position, and the beginning of the year, it was, what are we going to do in goal? Is Darcy going to be enough? Is Frankie going to be good and healthy? Well, check. We're good. 1A, 1B. It doesn't matter. Back-to-backs, we're set. Like, the goalie position is, I mean, we are well taken care of, and they're proving it. Like, shutouts. This is... And against really good teams. We were talking in the first segment about how good Chicago was. Like, those weren't easy saves for Frankie. He had and especially how Chicago started that third period, absolutely nuclear on fire and didn't let anything in. Like, he's calm and composed, and Frankie's showing all the confidence that Darcy was showing us about middle of the month.
Yeah. For me, like, I always thought Kuemper was playing okay. I mean, if you're just like paying attention to social media, you're thinking like, he's the Achilles heel of the team. Like, he was playing. He needed to play better. I'm not saying he didn't, but he's starting to. And when you come to a new team, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to figure things out and just get used to things. And I feel like he's there. And he's a streaky guy. He's always been a streaky guy. Like, he'll give you a handful of great starts, and then he'll follow it up with a handful of duds. And I think you're just going to have to deal with that. But the good thing now is, if he's in the middle of maybe like a 3-game like lull, you have Pavel Francouz to put in there right now. And I feel like if this was a problem, a huge problem, then I think the Avalanche maybe would look at a guy like Fleury. I don't know, someone. But right now, this is why they let it play out for so long, and this is why I'm happy that the trade deadline isn't in January, because then you're making knee jerk reactions, and you're really. I mean, now you've got he's finally come back. Like I said, Frankie's come back. He's finally healthy. And you were saying it for a long time. What can he do? We need to see him. We need to see him play. What can he? And he's showing that. And that only just rubs off on Kuemper. Kuemper's just going to keep playing well simply because Frankie's playing well.
And the thing is, the Avalanche fans really need to realize right now, you have two incredible goalies getting hot at the same time. And the comfortable thing for Avalanche fans to do is look for the next best option in goal. Like after Wall, we chased Abisher out of town. We had Jean-Sebastian Giguère, chased him out of town. And then we had Varlamov, and then Grubauer came in, and then it was, I can't wait for Grubauer to start. Varlamov is gone. Same with Grubauer. Frankie. Grubauer is gone. Now we have Frankie and Kuemper. Like, appreciate the two and the fact that we can use two whenever we want. We don't have a Vasilevsky. And you know what? We're going back to 82 games. Let's see if Vasilevsky can hold up for 82 games this go round.
Yeah.
Be glad you have two very efficient goalies that can give you a shutout when you need it.
Yeah. That's true. And I still go back to the love affair that Avalanche fans have with Philip Grubauer. And it's almost like because he had that one good season, it's like everything he did before that is forgotten. And he struggled. There were times where he struggled. He struggled in net. He struggled to stay healthy. And I don't know what's going to happen with Darcy Kuemper after this year because he's an unrestricted free agent. I would love to have him back. I would. I mean, if something, better, I say air quotes, better. Like, I don't know what the goalie situation is like in the free agent market, but I don't know what the Avs can bring. They can't go spending, Vasilevsky money, who I think is making 10 or 11 a year. They can't do that. So they have to be in like the mid range. And I would be completely fine seeing how Darcy Kuemper has played both sides of it.
Yeah.
And that's why like people were shouting for the Avs to make a trade or bring in a free agent.
Yeah.
When Grubauer was here, and Joe Sakic went on record to say shortly after the season was over, say we're not doing anything at goal. We like the two goalies we have. We feel like the problem is injuries, and the injuries that they have, we feel are preventable. It's not it's not because of conditioning or anything like that. And look what happened. He wrote it out, and Grubauer had a cash-in season, and now he's playing in Seattle, and he's struggling because he's on a expansion team. I think that just understanding that these guys can be those guys, and they're showing it now. It's exactly what they want.
And you hit a fantastic point on what we're paying for these goalies. If you look at what Vancouver and like the Thatcher Demko contract, Matt Murray still has a job. Devin Dubnyk just got released from his ECHL gig.
That's true.
You can't go chasing after names like we've done that.
Yeah.
What we're paying, like, look up what other teams are paying for their goalies. Like, we just rattled off 16 home wins on a discount contracts for what we're paying for our goalie. You got to look at that, especially what we're going to have to pay when it comes to retaining the people on the team that score the goals. We have lightning in a bottle here.
So, and I mentioned Kuemper being an unrestricted, so is Francouz. So that it's going to be very interesting in the off season for the Avalanche to see what they do in goal. And as another team looking at what Pavel Francouz is doing right now and saying, we're going to offer him something the Avalanche can't. That's always a possibility. I mean, he is 31. So is Kuemper. They're both 31 years old. So that's a real possibility that, I mean, I'd like to see both of these guys come back, but there's a possibility neither one of them come back.
And then everybody kind of laughed when I brought up John Gibson earlier because he has a beefy contract for a long time. If you do end up losing both these goalies, that might be a move where you could, and you have Eustace coming in.
Yeah, I mean that's a good idea. Yeah, because you have total between these two. $5.5 million wrapped up. So I don't know. I mean, that's now you're in Grubauer territory. That's about where you are with. I don't know. Definitely something to watch in the offseason for the Avs. So that's the goalie side of things. What about the forward side of things? And we're going to be hearing about this forever until the trade deadline comes up. And I don't want to sit here and talk about guys that I want. I don't want them to trade anybody. I love this team the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that aren't playing well, I just want them to play better.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to play better. I don't want them to be, if they're not playing well right now, it's like, oh, well, ship them out. So I guess like the way that I'm thinking about this, the way I'm phrasing it is who does need to start playing better, or they might start seeing themselves in some of these trade scenarios involving the Avalanche that are going to be buyers come trade deadline.
Yeah, there's I think it was Nathaniel on YouTube. He brought up the question, who would you be sad to see go in a trade package and who would you be happy to see go? So,
well, I don't want it. Like I said, I don't want any of them to go. I don't like. I want them all to, and the guys that I'm sure we're going to talk about are kind of like the usual suspects here, but it doesn't mean I just want them out the door. I want them to play better because a lot of these guys have put in their time with the Avs.
mm-hmm.
And if they're lucky enough to win the cup, I want those guys to have, gone through all of the trials and tribulations with the Avs themselves and within themselves to get to the top of the mountain. But it might not happen. That's just the nature of the business. So throw out some guys because I'm sure we have, a lot of people out there have similar idea.
Number one that needs to step it up, or I'm not going to shed a tear when it comes to a trade package. One Timothy Kuemper. But by the way, that's probably the first time you've heard that name in quite some time. So you're welcome. His name is JT Kuemper, number 37. He plays for the Avalanche. Yeah, he's got to step it up. Usually, Kuemper and Jost work well together, and their stock rises and falls kind of together. They're like Batman and Robin, and you just haven't seen him lately, and you need him to step up and perform, especially in games like we just went through with Chicago. If they're shutting down your top line, they're making Kadri uncomfortable, taking Nuke out of it. This is where Jost and Timothy Kuemper step up and shine. But if you're not stepping up in those moments, you're just filling a roster spot. We could give that to somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, on the season, he's got 7 goals, 7 assists. Obviously, that's 14 points. But you look at his game logs, and the last 2 games, he hasn't scored a point. The 2 games previous to that, he had an assist in each of those games. And then he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 where he didn't have anything. And then he had a goal. And then before that, 1, 2, 3 in a row where he had nothing. So wildly inconsistent for Kuemper. And I think that as fans are maybe like losing patience. They've given him so much leeway and so much time to really come into his own. And they've given him so many opportunities to take really whatever he wants outside of that top line.
Yeah.
He could have been a Val Nichushkin, and it's just not materializing for him. So the Avs have a question to ask. Are they okay with him being a bottom 6 guy and feel like he's okay with that production? Or do you move him and bring in someone who can give you what you're looking for on bottom 6 production?
And you said he had 5 games without a point.
Yeah.
Guess who also didn't have 5 games without a point? Me. But I don't get paid by the Avalanche to score goals.
No. You had as many points as he did in a 5-game stretch. It's just, I just feel like it's more of the same with JT Kuemper, and it's, I don't know if his time is running thin. And if you're like a rebuilding team, then okay, I think he fills a role. But you're on a team that's clearly expected to go far, and you haven't been a liability yet because the team is winning. But can they keep doing this of not knowing what production they're going to get out of you. I don't know.
And then when you see games like what we just went through with Chicago and Abe Kubel absolutely just torching it, like he was like flying down the ice and he's scoring and he's putting himself in plays where when that trade happened, everybody just fired up the Google machine to figure out who this Abe Kubel guy is. Like never heard of him, but he's outperforming JT Comfort and we've given him chance after chance after chance. Like this is your time to shine. You could step up here. Usually when you tell that to Burakovsky, another one that we talk about, you got to produce a little bit. He does. He'll fire that goal. He gets everything going again. He'll have that soundbite after a great game. But I think we've hit the ceiling of what we're getting out of JT. And with new guys that are just like Abe Kubel, like if he's outperforming you, I think we've got a problem.
And as far as last night, I mean, he almost had 14 minutes of ice time, so he's getting ice time, but nothing, not even a shot on goal.
Yeah,
not even a shot on goal. So, and then kind of like his, the Robin to his Batman. We always, whenever you're talking about Comfort, you're usually talking about Tyson Jost, and Jost. I was excited to see what he was going to do this year because he had a really good season last year. And a lot of people were thinking that was his, like coming out party and where he really took the next step. Again, hasn't happened. He only got 8 minutes and change of ice, almost 9, just short of 9 minutes of ice time last night. But again, no points, no shots on goal. I always like Tyson Jost, his work ethic.
Yeah.
He's always working so hard. But I mean, when you've been doing that for as long as he's been on in the Avalanche, is it at some point you just have to feel like, all right, this is not just an unlucky guy.
Yeah.
Maybe this, like you were saying, maybe we know what we have in JT Comfort. And is it time to say that about Tyson Jost? And the same question needs to be asked of him. Do you keep him because you know what you're going to get from him? Okay, so you're comfortable with what his role is on the team. Or do you feel like you could get something of value that can put out better production of what he is in moving him? Again, I don't know.
And why we're bringing this up, it's not like we're downing Jost and Comfort. Like we're talking this year this is cup or bust because we know what next year's going to look like when it comes to the contracts. Like we love Jost, we love Comfort. They're great dudes. We love them on the team. But we're talking this is not like a collection of your favorite Avalanche jerseys. Like yes, those guys give you the warm fuzzies, but we're talking cup or bust this year. It's Stanley Cup.
Right.
And you've got to kind of put those emotional relationships to the side. Stats are what speak the loudest. And you just rattled off Comfort and Jost.
Yeah.
That's not performing. Like, is there someone on the Eagles right now who could do better and help us push past the second round? Because everybody talks about that's our big obstacle. Well, guess who was there the last couple second rounds? Jost and Comfort. This is simple math and subtraction here. Like, we're not downing the guys, but we're talking about the Avalanche as a whole. If you want to win the Stanley Cup, you have to start thinking about how we're going to win the Stanley Cup.
That's exactly right. And I don't think anybody can really argue that. Like if you are going after the cup, you got to be all in. And if there's some unpopular moves that need to be made because you like JT Comfort and you like Tyson Jost personally, I get that. But, warm and fuzzy feelings aren't going to win you a Stanley Cup. And if that's the goal, then difficult decisions need to be made. And that's the unfortunate part of it.
And if you have warm and fuzzy feelings, do what I do with my warm and fuzzy feelings. I'll tune into a Sharks game just to watch Matt Nieto.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Or Jonas Donskoy on Seattle, but you can't because they healthy scratched him.
Oh boy.
Yeah. All right. So, all right. But let us know what you guys think. Shoot us a line, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com, because you're gonna start hearing about this stuff. Trade possibilities and theories are gonna be popping up. And those guys are going to be included in them, in almost all of them. and we're not going to get into the prospect thing. Maybe we'll do that a little bit later, but prospects are always in the mix as well. So,
and if you knew Crawford was on the bench of the Blackhawks, raise your hand, because I sure didn't. That surprised
I had
me.
no idea.
What a blast from the past tonight in that game.
Yeah, he was yelling at something, which didn't surprise me. But yeah, I didn't know that. Didn't know he was he's assistant, I guess, over there with the Blackhawks. So interesting. But all right. In the end, the Avs with another victory. That puts them over 60, right? Over 60 points. Didn't they have 59?
I believe so. Let me.
I don't know if my app is updated yet. Yeah, 61.
61.
There you go. 61. So flying high. Always good when you get 2. So all right, we will be back tomorrow and talking about anything that seems to be going on in the Avalanche world. But thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Check out Locked On NHL. Make that your second listen of the day. Get caught up on anything going on around the league. That'll wrap it up for us today. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.